Good morning. Well, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society. We are grateful to gather on this beautiful morning, both in person and online, for a time of inspiration, reflection, and connection. Whether you join us today with joy in your heart, weighted with burdens, or searching for meaningful connections, we are glad that you are here. I'm the Reverend Diana Smith, the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Society, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm a somewhat tall white woman in my mid-40s with short, curly white and brown hair, purple glasses, a black suit with teal shirt, and a stole with many colors of hands on it. I'm standing in UUS's pulpit in our front of our sanctuary, which is filled with people of all ages. Through the window walls of our sanctuary, we connect to the outdoors where we can see a beautiful late summer morning. As we gather, we give thanks for this land and all who have cared for it over the centuries, particularly the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk and Meskwaki, and the Oceti-Sakowin nations. As people of many ages, genders, races, sexual orientations, classes, abilities, and health statuses, we know how important it is to come together as a radically welcoming spiritual community. As Unitarian Universalists, our faith expresses our core value of love through how we agree to be together and to support each other. We are guided by our shared principles, sources, and values of our living religious tradition. This morning, we will be exploring our vision of ministry for this congregational year, especially our theme of nourishing resilience. As we do this, we'll have a chance to think about how our values and our principles are reflected in our vision of ministry. Today, we're having an all-ages worship service, which is followed by all-ages religious education. We do this on third Sundays because of how important it is for this congregation to create multi-generational community. We know that there is so much that we can learn from each other when members and friends of all ages are able to work together. If you're newer to our congregation, We invite you to learn more about us after the service. If you're here in person, you can talk to a greeter in the atrium. And for those who are online, there's a link to a visitor form in our YouTube notes that will let us connect with you. And now, we begin our service. As we begin our service, I invite you to settle in and reflect on how this congregation's mission invites us into the joyful work of creating welcoming. In the words of the Unitarian Universalist Association's proposed new bylaw section on inclusion, what does it mean to draw down barriers for people with particular identities, ages, abilities, and histories, and replace those barriers with ever-widening circles of solidarity and mutual respect? What does it mean for us to create inclusive, welcoming communities in the context of our congregation's mission, which is, we are a welcoming, spiritually diverse home. We act on our values to honor the earth, advocate for racial and social justice, nurture deep connections, and embrace the ongoing quest for meaning. And so, as we begin to reflect on those questions, let's join our voices in song. We'll be singing Siahamba, which is number 1030 in your hymnal, and the words will be on the screens. Emily Pritchard, our new music director, Xinghui Liu, our staff pianist, and our choir will be leading us.
If you can, embody your spirit.
Good morning. I'm Marcia Cheney, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm a slightly shorter than average white woman with brown and purple hair, and I'm delighted to be your worship associate this morning. As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety, to unite us in our worship and to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words as Xander lights our chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mystery of this great gift. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to serve those in need. This we promise, this we covenant, with life and one another. Each week, we light a candle for justice and healing to acknowledge our interdependence with the natural world and with all members of the global community, especially the most vulnerable. We light this candle so that we may not be numbed to injustice and trauma, but rather find strength, courage, and love as we work in solidarity with others for liberation, justice, and healing. Together, we create resilience and hope. Today, as we light this candle, let us hold in our hearts and lend our strength of will to the world leaders who will be convening in New York this week for the Climate Ambition Summit. In the words of Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, now must be the time for ambition and action. The world is watching, and the planet can't wait. As I light this candle, let's hold a time of silence to listen to our hearts and bodies, or perhaps lift up prayers.
Good morning. My name is Mick Kaplan. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm the grateful director of Lifespan Religious Education here at Unitarian Universalist Society. I'm a shorter and rounder non-binary person. This means that you use they or them, not he or she, to talk about me. And I'm excited to do this with all of you today. Today, we are talking about something that can seem a bit boring, but it's actually really important. Not chores, though those can be boring and important too. Not wrong. What we're talking about today is really important for how we make our congregation be a joyful, welcoming place where people of all ages can engage in making meaning, being in community together, and to figure out how to live our values, how to live love in the wider world. We're talking about something called a vision of ministry. And what we do with that. Who's heard of a vision? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. An idea of what you want to be. I like that. Anyone else a vision? Yeah.
Something that is usually of magical proportion.
Oh, something of magical proportion. Like a vision of the future. I like that. We're talking about our vision of ministry, not the kind of vision where people see things with their eyes, but the kind of vision a group has. Maybe for how they want to be. Maybe it feels magical.
Okay, great. So each year, the leaders of congregations like ours get together to figure out what our vision of ministry for the coming year will be. To do this, we ask questions, and we think and we talk about what's been going on in our congregation, what's happening in the larger community and world. Then we come up with statements that we think about what we think our congregation needs and how we might use our congregation's unique gifts and resources to support our members and the wider community in the work of centering and living love. The vision of ministry is important because it gives us, all of us in the congregation, members, staff, and friends, goals and guidance as we develop programs, initiatives, and partnerships. Often a vision of ministry only changes a little bit from year to year, but sometimes there are bigger changes. Now, for the last couple of years, we've had the same basic vision of ministry, which was reconnecting with ourselves, each other, and the wider community. That vision of ministry was really important and helpful as we navigated the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic. This year, those words have continued on by becoming part of how we're applying our vision of ministry. But when we looked at the work our congregation has done in the past few years and how it's growing and changing, including and looking at, and we paid attention to what's happening in the wider world and the wider community, including growing extremism in Iowa and other places, the Board of Trustees chose 3 new themes to focus our congregational work this year. And I'm guessing you're wondering what those are. Marcia, can you help start us off?
Sure. One of the things about a vision of ministry is that it's designed to guide and inspire us rather than telling us exactly how to do things. The first statement in this year's vision of ministry is that we envision this as a year of welcoming, hospitality, and homecoming. That can include things like sharing responsibility for welcoming and engaging visitors, making creative use of our building, encouraging members to develop programming, and making programming easily accessible to people with various needs.
On the next slide, we'll see the second part of our vision of ministry, which is that we're nourishing resilience as a community. This means both within our building as a congregation and in the wider community. That can include things like creating joyful resistance to the growing extremism in Iowa, building bonds with each other within this congregation and with other groups that are our allies, engaging in creative conflict resolution, deepening and respecting diverse spiritual practices, and adapting to climate change.
And the last part of our vision of ministry for this year is practicing personal care and compassion for others. This can include things like recognizing the effects of the pandemic and the political realities around us. And the board will be leading discussions about these with the congregation through their open questions, which I'm going to tell you more about later on. This also includes cultivating sustainable practices. That means doing things in ways that don't exhaust or wear us down. Practicing patience and setting realistic expectations, and resisting perfectionism, one of my favorites. Now, as you've heard these 3 elements of our vision of ministry, I'm guessing they've brought all sorts of ideas and questions about things that we can do into your minds. We want to hear about that a little later in today's service, because all of us are part of creating our vision of ministry and living it out. But first, Marcia's going to lead us in a practice to help us do this.
Welcoming, nourishing resilience, and practicing care and compassion bring many things to our minds and our hearts. Today, as we enter into our joys and sorrows ritual, I invite you to notice some of those thoughts and feelings. They might be from times you felt particularly welcomed, resilient, or able to practice care and compassion. They might be from times that you've missed those things, or they might just be hopes that you have for the coming year. As you contemplate these experiences from the past and hopes for the future, can you imagine how even a small action done differently might have changed your experience? And now let us enter into a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer to acknowledge these joys, sorrows, and hopes for the future. We'll do this by dropping stones in a bowl of water, symbolically immersing our personal joys, sorrows, hopes, and dreams into the flow of all life's joys and sorrows, hopes, and dreams. The water surrounds and holds the stone just as we are surrounded and held by the love and support of this congregation. If you're participating in our service elsewhere, you may wish to meditatively hold a stone, wash your hands, or meditate on an object near you. And now, if you're in our sanctuary, please come forward and take a stone from the basket and place your stone in the water as we sing together.
invite you into a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. Spirit of life and love, in these times of change, in this season as it grows colder, and we feel the spirit of a new year upon us. Help us to notice the blessings, the gift of our lives, the beauty of these seasons, the wonder of change, the depth of connection we can find when we need it most. Help us also to share our difficulties and be open to the changes that life brings us, finding the hope for something new that is always there, moving into the new ways that this world calls us to be. May we find peace today and clarity and love, always love at the center of our days. Amen. Blessed be. Thank you for sharing the deep moments as well as the joyous ones. In these ways, we are a community together. Earlier, Nick, Marcia, and I talked about the 3 parts of this year's vision of ministry. A year of welcoming, hospitality, and homecoming. Nourishing resilience as a community. And practicing personal care and compassion with others. We also talked about some of what this vision might mean for what we do as a congregation. Those ideas that you heard earlier were ones developed by our Board of Trustees with input from our staff. When the board and staff were talking about how we might want to implement this vision, or how we might want to live this vision in our congregation, we created some questions to help guide us. They included, how can we make it easy for people to engage with programming? And how can we invite UUS groups and members into enacting or carrying out our vision of ministry? We also talked about how it would be helpful to develop programming that helps us connect with ourselves by doing things like engaging in meaning making, developing our understanding of who we are as Unitarian Universalists, and engaging with Article 2, which is the draft new Unitarian Universalist values, principles, and purposes, which you probably heard me talk a lot about last year, and you're going to hear me talk about more this year. And cultivating joy, resilience, and sustainability within our justice work. We also talked about developing programming that helps us connect with each other by doing things like cultivating welcoming and hospitality, getting to know people we don't already know, developing opportunities to resist oppression, create joy and love, and change together. Asking how are we serving each other's growth and nourishing multiple communities within UUS. And then, for our third part, we talked about developing programming that helps us connect with the wider community by doing things like inviting key partners into our building more. That includes groups like Johnson County Interfaith Coalition, Backyard Abundance, the choir, and similar organizations. Operating the learning space, being more visible and known in the wider community by prioritizing how we do outreach, especially in Coralville, Tiffin, North Liberty, and with BIPOC and LGBTQ plus communities, and connecting through different kinds of community creating programming like Summer of the Arts. Now, we've already started developing programming and initiatives based on these ideas and questions, but we know that we can't do it alone. We know that our congregation is made of all of us, that we're much stronger together, and to be successful, we have to work on implementing or living out this vision together. So, now we want to hear your ideas. If you're here in the sanctuary, please find 3 or 4 or 5 people that you don't know, that you didn't come with, I should say, that you did not come with. They could be people you know because, but 3 or 4 or 5 people that you did not come here today with. You'll have 4 or 5 minutes to talk with each other and write down your ideas in each of the areas. Those ones. You'll find big Post-it notes and pins scattered around the sanctuary. As soon as you have an idea in each area, please write it down and come up and place it on the paper here, the paper that it belongs with. So it might go in Welcoming, Hospitality, and Homecoming. It might go in Nourishing Resilience or Care and Compassion. Children can be part of a group with their families, or Nick will be leading a short discussion with many of our kids in the carpeted area. If you're at home, we invite you to take these minutes to write Nick or me a short email with your ideas. After a few minutes, I'll begin reading aloud the things people are adding to these sheets. Go for it. I can hear you're already starting. You've got about 2 minutes. You have about 2 minutes. We're starting to get some great ideas up here. I hope that you'll write things down and share them because you just have 1 minute left for this exercise.
Picks up about here.
Okay, thank you.
And it's about here, so the kittens should not
great,
be.
thank you. Okay. We're coming towards the end of our time for this exercise, so I hope you will take a couple minutes to write things down, run them on up here. I'm seeing all sorts of great things showing up around things like our choir. Oh, thank you. Our choir and our music program. Great ideas around welcoming. Ideas around some groups to connect with. Oh, this is fabulous. Lots of things coming up here. I can't wait to read these later. We've got some great ideas around food, around ways to create gathering spaces for people to connect before services. Ideas for classes around spiritual practices. Please. All right. I'm seeing some more coming up here. Yeah, some different classes about art and other kinds of spiritual practices. I see a note here about hospitality volunteering. Inviting people to come along to services. Expanding our use of our space. Lots and lots of things coming up to the welcoming hospitality and homecoming. I love it. And we've just got more and more things coming out. This is wonderful. Wonderful. Well, so there are a lot of great ideas here. I've been sort of browsing these while people have been putting them up here. And I hope that after our service today, you will read each other's thoughts, because there are lots of great things that I'm seeing that I haven't even gotten a chance to fully read yet. There are lots of things about our approach to newcomers, as well as about how we create connections with the people who have been here for a while. Now, at the end of this main service, we'll have a little bit of a gap between the service and our all ages religious education. During that time, I hope you'll get some refreshments, but I also hope you'll look at these, as well as later on after the service. Now, our all ages religious education will help us explore these ideas further. In particular, the Board of Trustees and other leaders will be leading discussion groups to explore the first of 2 open questions that they've developed to help us create next year's vision of ministry, as well as to think further about how we implement this year's vision of ministry, the things that you've just been talking about. Whether you're part of those discussions later today, we hope that you'll add your voice to these discussions, because this congregation really is made of all of us and the ways that we create a more welcoming, radical, how we create more welcoming, radical hospitality and beloved community. So may it be. Amen. And blessed, blessed be. Marcia.
Our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. In response to the abundance we are blessed with, every week this congregation donates generously to organizations in the community whose work aligns with our values and principles. Our community partner agency this month is Shelter House, which provides safe shelter and helps people improve the quality of their lives as they move beyond homelessness. They operate a 70-bed emergency shelter in addition to 4 homes and an apartment building through which they provide over 60 permanent supportive housing units. Programs and support services include housing, employment, and mental health recovery. In the sanctuary, the ushers will collect the offering, or you can follow the instructions on the screen for how to give online. All cash contributions go directly to our community partner agency. In addition to assisting our community partner, you may contribute towards your pledge to our society or contribute to the congregation to provide additional support for our operating expenses. You may also contribute by check using the memo line to designate the purpose. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is almost completely supported by the generosity of all who join us. As we give and receive the offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts.
Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, to be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed to turn. Turn will be our delight, till by turning, turning
Nurturing gratitude and how we understand and express interdependence is a part of how we live into our Unitarian Universalist faith. May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Immediately after today's All Ages service, we invite everyone to find refreshments in the fellowship hall before joining one of 3 activities that will begin at 11 and end around 11:30. As part of All Ages religious education, we ask that an adult from each family join their kids in whichever activity you choose. The You Fit Here art activity has multiple stations around the building. Virginia Melroy will lead a Welcome to the Labyrinth session. Please head to the front door to be part of that. And the board is holding small group open questions discussions in the fellowship hall, in the conference room for anyone with hearing challenges, and also online. If you're online, there's a Zoom link that's being dropped into the chat to direct you to an open questions session. And you'll find around the sanctuary, there's bubbles and dance ribbons distributed. These are for people of all ages to use in our final hymn. So please participate as feels best to you. While we do hymn number 1007, There's a River Flowing in My Soul.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
Before I send you out into the world, I want to note 3 things. 1, all ages religious education. If you don't perfectly remember all the things Marcia said, they are on the back of your order of service. 2, our auction, which is online, ends this Tuesday evening, so bid. Check it out. If you can't find the email in your inbox inviting you to be part of the auction, you can talk to Sue Can, I believe. Do I have that right? Sue, where are you? Okay, so you can talk to Sue Can or Judy Tokuhisa. And then we have a day of service coming up this Saturday, September 23rd, so look for information to participate in that. And now, as you go forth into this day and this week, may you go nourishing resilience, your own and that of your communities. Go in peace, love, and justice, living love ever more fully and fiercely into this world. Amen. And blessed be.
I thought it was going to be a bop. I tried.
So we haven't talked to you.
Yeah, what's up?
We heard Alex was working for a year to get people to use the traveling music to get them to go.
Yeah. That's great. No, that's great. No,
It's so